I want you to go back to your town and your family and tell the story of what God has done for you. So there's a story in Luke 8 that tells about a man who's driven out to solitary places, and he was tormented in his mind day and night. And others tried to help him. They didn't know what to do for him. They would just tie him up in chains, but he would always break them and run off to occupy sometimes literal graveyards by himself. And I just think about this man and think about the pain, the emotional and spiritual and relational pain he experienced. But when Jesus came into his life, he had compassion on him and he freed him from every source of pain. And when that man experienced that healing, he just fell down before the Lord and worshiped him and said, "Let me stay with you. I want to stay with you, Lord. Thank you for what you've done in my life." And Jesus actually said to him, "No, I want you to go back to your town and your family and tell the story of what God has done for you." I love that story. I love that story of transformation of what the Lord did in this man's life. It's such a story of hope. And I think it's especially beautiful to me because recently I was given a little snapshot of what the Lord has done in my life. So when I was young, I didn't know the Lord. I actually went through quite a bit of pain and emotional and relational trauma in my early life. By the time I was in my adolescence, I worked through agnosticism and finally landed in atheism. And in my early adolescence, had actually been diagnosed with depression and just carried a joylessness. And I think at that time I didn't really realize how joyless I was. It was just the water that I was swimming in. Looking back now, I can see that I just lived without joy in my life. But I think then I didn't really even know how much I was missing, but I think I did have that weight of pain that was visible to others. I remember a group of friends that I had as a teenager. There was a song that was popular on the radio at that time about this girl that never smiled, and I remember my friends being like, "Oh, that's you never smile," which is a funny thing to say to someone. But I mean, they recognized that I just almost never smiled. And I remember kind of thinking, oh, I guess I don't. My mom also made this painting of me with a shadow over my heart. And later when I asked her, like, what was the idea behind that painting? And she said, well, it's because you just had such a shadow over your heart and just such a grief that you carried, I think, from some of the pain that you have had. All of those things were just part of how I had lived for so long. Then when I met Jesus, he began to transform me. And the Bible says, when we see him, we will be like him, for we'll see him as he is. And the more that I have, over the years, been able to really see who Jesus is, the more joy has just grown in my heart, because he is a good God. He is kind, he's loving, he is creative, and he cares for us. I recently just had a little snapshot of the transformative work that he's done in my life. I was at a group with some other women and we were sharing about our personal experiences with joy and joylessness. And I told the story of how when I was young, I just was known as the girl who had never smiled and had a shadow over my heart. And one of my friends actually interrupted me in my testimony and said, "Oh my goodness, I think you maybe smile more than anyone else I know. Sometimes it's even hard to make eye contact with you because you smile so much." And I just had this moment of praising the Lord in my heart, because I cannot believe how much joy there is in this life, how much joy the Lord pours into us. And it doesn't mean that we don't experience suffering or pain, because we do. It says in the Bible how we're promised to share in his sufferings, but that his love that pours into our life, no suffering, no human suffering can crush the joy that His love brings in our life. Wherever you are in that journey, whether you're wondering if God's power can be real for anyone, and you haven't maybe taken a step into tasting it for yourself yet, or if you're on your path with Him and you need some encouragement, that even though there are valleys and there are highlands, that His work is true and real. For me, I can see the places, just like for the man in Luke 8, that God has just done a total transformation in my life. That is the God that we serve. He's good. He's a transformative God. He loves to do His creative work, and He still is. He created us, and He still is creating us. So be encouraged wherever you are in that journey, that is what He wants for you.